Well, a warm evening to you. It feels a little bit warm, doesn't it, tonight? It's Tuesday already. We are powering through the week. I'm really glad to see you. I'm Dave Thackeray. Welcome to Tell Better, Sell Better, your guide to converting customers quicker through captivating content. Doesn't really get better than that, does it? Anyway, we've been doing this every day as a little bit of an experiment because I am a content developer. I'm a journalist by trade. In fact, I've been doing this, patrolling the streets of content for nearly a quarter of a century. I'm nearly dead, but I'm still ready and raring to go. Very much alive to help you through navigating the minefield that is creating content, especially during these crazy COVID times. I'm just going to grab me a cup of tea, got myself a chai, Tesco finest chai tea bags full of fat milk. It's what we're all about, isn't it? It's a Tuesday, so we can't go down the inebriated route just yet. 3 more days, anything to play for. Cheers. Well, tonight we've been talking about companies. We started off with geek.design. We moved into statefarm.com, one of my personal favorites. So the financial environment obviously is very challenging, replete with regulations, very difficult to user experience. So we took a look at optimalworkshop.com that works with a lot of the big public sector organizations, including gov.uk, to figure out ways that they can present their content in an elegant, in an understandable, in a coherent, structured format, using things like card sorting, tree jacking, tree testing, which is what they call it now, and all these great tools. Because I think the good thing about whether you're just starting with your very first website, whether you're teetering on the cusp of building an e-commerce store, whether you're looking to expand, whether you might have been on the web. I mean, if anything like me, you've been on the web now for decades, and you just decided that now was the right time. We're back into lockdown again. We've got a little bit of time to contemplate where we go next. We might want to start building out new business opportunities, but we'll look at our website and perhaps we're thinking it's a bit tired. Maybe people aren't navigating around as they could or should be. We've taken a look at our Google Analytics, and to be honest with you, it's a little bit bleak. And we're thinking, well, maybe now's the time that we start responding to what our customers are asking for, instead of us forcing down their necks what we think they need. And we've talked a bit over the past few days as well about things like top tasks, Jerry McGovern's framework that identifies what customers really need from your website. I mean, there's so much here, but what I wanted to do tonight, this is a little bit of a deviation from what you're used to, is talk a little bit about 2 resources that I'm a huge fan of, and I use them almost every day. They're as frequent in my workflow as pair writing. Now, if you don't work in the public sector, I've spent quite a few years in this crazy, intoxicating world. And one of the things that we're very good on is picking up trends and making the most of them. Because, from the outside, you look at these hulking, unwieldy brutes of an organization, these public sector bodies that you think, oh, there's thousands of people working in them. They must have dozens of people in the digital team. Well, let me tell you a little secret. That ain't true. We're as lean as you are. Digital is, I'd say, probably 95% of the time neglected compared to its potential. So we spin our wheels, but we never truly get where we need to be. And that is a big issue. So don't be deceived. We are all in this together. We're all learning together. To some degree, we're all winging it. We're all winging it at life. There's no reason why we're not winging it in this digital world too. And so we're always looking for ways that we can do things smarter, speedier, smilier, and probably just in a way that actually gets the best out of us, even though we are very light in number and we're very challenged for the resources that we need to succeed. So this is where things like these tools come in handy. Today, we're going to talk about 2 of them. One of them is priority guides. And I did murmur about that yesterday when we were talking about optimalworkshop.com. And the second one is what you see in front of you now, which is the core model. Now, where do these go? What's the way that I would typically use these? Well, I use these when I'm building out new websites. And I also use these when I'm building out new sections of a website, or maybe we've got a new landing page, a new campaign page, and we need to understand better what customers need from those campaign pages. Now, thankfully, the world of the web means that it's easier than ever to get the analytics and the insights that will inform our future campaigns. It's very important to remember that we're surrounded by this sea of data. We're on this island and we're being confronted at every angle. Thankfully, it's a circle, so we've got no sharp edges to worry about. We are literally swimming in data. And I think the difficulty when you're a content specialist is identifying exactly the data you need to make the right decisions. Now, thankfully, I mean, my 3 tips, let's get cracking. Let's get straight in here with the thick of it. Google Analytics, it goes without saying. In fact, Google has a suite of amazing tools. So Google Analytics is great. That's ground zero. That's really where the magic happens. And you can configure that really beautifully well to give you the reports that you need. Now, Google also has Data Studio, which essentially pulls in a load of different data sources. So if you're wanting to build out dashboards comprising Facebook insights, Twitter insights, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of these different social networks that spew data that is hugely valuable, not only to understand about how to put out better social content, but also to inform you what to do more widely, because how people react to your social content also informs you what content you are better producing for your website, because people feel quite informal and quite off guard when they're on your social platforms. It feels like fun. The difference between your website, which is where people principally come to convert, which in human speak means to find the products and services they need, they're in quite serious mode. They've been to Google. They've probably found you on there. If they haven't already bookmarked you, which, let's be honest, is pretty niche. There's not many people these days, apart from geeks like me, who obsess over that. But in fact, last night, I spent about half an hour just sifting, pruning my bookmarks. It was the most horrible thing that I could possibly think of. But this is the freak show that is COVID. We'll do things that we wouldn't ordinarily do. And sometimes that's good. And sometimes that's bookmarks. So they come to your website. They've got the context. They've got a specific objective in mind. And this is where social's great, because social will actually help you understand a bit more about the person that your prospective customer is. And then you can respond to them, because there's empathy everywhere. And we need to be thinking about our website as a place of great empathy, as much as going out on social media and sharing things like ASCII art, you know, people falling off buildings or people kissing each other using little characters. It looks beautiful. Not in a million years going to get anywhere close to your website, but you're starting to get a sense on social about the kind of people that you're wanting to or should be selling to using your website. Coming back to this anyway, eventually. So you gain a very holistic appreciation, a very 360-degree picture of your prospective customers. If you're looking at how they behave on social through engagement, through likes, through shares, through retweets, and you also on your website through things like Google Analytics and your newsletter. If you've not got a newsletter, please God, create a valuable newsletter. Don't use it as a selling platform. Use it as a way of scratching the itch, tickling the back of your customer, starting to figure out ways that you can reach them with massively valuable content. And that in turn is another indicator of the kind of content that you need on your website. Or if you're seeing content on your website going great guns, put that in your newsletter. Likewise with social media, things that are responding really well or creating great response on your website, social media, podcasts, videos. You might even want to build out a book. So I'm working with one of my at arm's length colleagues on a book now that's based on a podcast that we're currently building out. So much opportunity here. And this really is where the insights and the analytics come in super, super handy. So you've got Google Analytics, you've got Google Data Studio, which will pull together all of these data sources, including Google Analytics, to get that wider context into your dashboards. Invaluable. Data Studio, free of charge. Analytics, free of charge. Another great tool, Google Optimize. Right. You might have heard of things like multivariate and A/B testing. Well, Google Optimize will let you put loads of different things on the same page and serve them up in these very different fragrances, these different flavors to different sets of prospective customer. And then you can get the results back and quickly you can start to get a sense of which bits of content work really, really well. So I'll just take this page, for example, that I've got in front of us that I'm sharing right now from alistapart.com, which starts to talk about the core model. On the right-hand side, you've got the comments speech bubble. People might click that instinctively to add a comment. They might look at that and go, oh, it looks a piece of art. Maybe I'm not supposed to click it. And so straight away, Alistapart could start showing blue versions, green versions, all this. The psychology of color comes into play, doesn't it? Green, red, yellow, blue. Try all these different colors as that little content speech bubble, comment speech bubble, and see what people respond to best. And that's how you might use Google Optimize. It doesn't need to be flamboyant and this all-encompassing, this grand design, as Kevin McLeod might call it. It might be the minutiae, the little things that you want people to click on, the calls to action on your page. Test different shapes, test different sizes, test different colors until you hit that sweet spot. Just going back to the different tools I was talking about, Hotjar as well, or Full Story, are session recorders, heat mapping tools, where I don't know if you've ever seen heat mapping before, but it's fascinating. So heat maps will show you where people are looking, where people are clicking, and where people are scrolling to down your page. Now, you can do something quite coarse, similar to this with Google Analytics, where using Google Tag Manager, which is another part of the suite, which effectively lets you squirt in script onto your pages and manage it all in one place. So you don't need developers to get involved. If you want to put Hotjar code, because you'll need code from Hotjar, some JavaScript, to plug that functionality into your website, you'd put all that in Google Tag Manager. And then you can pull it out, push it in. And if you've got live chat, you can put it in there. If you've got all this different functionality that you want to put in there, put it all in Google Tag Manager. What Hotjar or Full Story does with heat mapping is really give you an indication of where on the page that people are looking, so that you can see where they're clicking, so you can get an appreciation of what's working, what's not. It might be that all of your really important content is all the way down the page, but nobody's seeing it. Using heat mapping, you can straight away go, well, no wonder this page isn't converting, because nobody's getting that far down the page. It's insane. Time for another cup of chai. Now, session recording goes into a little bit more detail, and it's GDPR proof, because what it does is it shows anonymously how people are navigating across your whole website, not just on one page. And with Full Story, I think it is, it's got the rage button. So you can see, it might even be on Hotjar. You can very easily, it's been a long day. We've got a virtual open event tomorrow. I'm on my knees, but I'm loving this. I'm loving sharing with you my experiences, insights into content. So I do deeply appreciate you being with here. If I'm starting to slur, it's got nothing to do with my alcoholic tendencies. I don't have any. This is pure and simple chai, honest. And there's no gin in it, although there should be. So your heat mapping gives you an indication of how people are using that specific page. Session recorders take you through their whole journey across your website to get a really good, deep, properly contextual understanding of how they are really getting into your content. So that's good. Now, we actually came here for two other reasons, but as you know, I like to go off on tangent, and I like to think that occasionally having fun. You'll notice here the core model, in fact, Ida Allen, a fabulous, fabulous developer, actually pulled this together over 5.5 years ago. And yet I think it's still one of the most important content development, content inspiring tools that's out there for the web. Now, what is the core model and how does it work and interplay with priority guides, which is the second tool that I'm going to talk to you about tonight? Well, fundamentally, what the core model does is it helps you to put together in a sheet. So you get a template, and if you go to this web page, you'll be able to download the template, and I'll take you through it in a bit more detail soon. It helps you understand where people are coming from to land on this page, what the objectives and the business goals are of this page, so you can get in deep with this specific template before you start building out the page, and where you hope people will go to after they've visited this page. What's the call to action? Where do you want to send them next? So really, this is a before, during, and after framework for the content that you're building on this page. Think about the core model like you would with the priority guide as a page by page attempt to build out content that really inspires, motivates, and more importantly than any of that, converts your customer, takes them down the funnel to the point where they get to the point where They're at the checkout phase and they're like, do you know what? You guys have made life so easy for me. I'm not only going to buy from you now, I'm going to come back next week and buy some for the fam. That's where we want to get to. So the core model, fundamentally, like I say, it talks about things like, okay, let me take you down here. Right. And this effectively was where we're at. So if you're thinking about a specific page, so for example, there's a brand new car model. You are Ford and you're just releasing the Cougar 2 because everybody wants to go to a Cougar, especially at a petting zoo. Don't put your hands too close though, because they have some wallop on them and their teeth are like iron bars shaven down into points. It's not a pretty place to be. The core page, so straight away, so I'll just take you through this very, very shortly. Business goals, clearly, here's what you want people to do with this web page. This is about you. User tasks is the things that people come to on this page and expect to have those tasks completed with your help. So it could be things like, what questions will I have when I reach this page, so that you know, as the web developer, what answers you need to put on this page to please your customers. And again, to get them further and deeper into your website to do the conversion thing. The inward paths, well, where they're going to come from. Is it that they're more likely? And again, if you're a seasoned analytics pro, you might be able to look at the current page that is leaning most closely to this specific page that you're building and go, okay, well, it looks like most people come to this page from our newsletter articles, or most of them are coming from Google. Now, if they're coming from Google, most of all, what are the keywords and the key phrases that they're using? That's really important. So you can start getting the devil and the detail and pull them together and create perfect matrimony. It could be stuff like social media. So if this is a campaign, where do you think most of these people are going to come from? If this is a core page that you're looking at, where are you hoping that most people are going to come from to start interacting with this page? So again, newsletters, social media, Google search, PPC. If you've got a campaign, then it stands to reason that you want the Cougar 2 to be heavily promoted on Google, and you can't guarantee that in the organic section. And far be it for me to criticize Google, but we all do, pile on in. You've got to go so far down the page these days to get beyond the adverts that most people won't get that far anyway. So it really does pay to pay per click these days. So those are the inward paths. The forward paths, where we go afterwards, well, that could be to the specifications page. If you're selling the Cougar 2, then you want people to start looking at the 360 page, which shows it in the flesh. You want people to book a test drive. You want people to maybe even buy the car. You might want to send them to a dealer page so that they can type in postcodes and see where they can go and drive this car. And of course, the meat between the pieces of bread, the meat that sits on the bones, this is the core content. So after thinking about the inward paths, being circumspect on the forward paths, where they're going to go next, thinking about what your users want from this page, thinking about what you as a business need from this page, that's where you build the core content. And this is a joy to use. And further down the page, you've got an example of how it comes together. So again, this is for the Norwegian Cancer Institute, I believe. And this is the page where it will explain to people the different types of cancer, and therefore they're thinking about what the users are thinking about. They want to know whether it's treatable. They want to know the symptoms and so forth and so on. So straight away, you can start to paint a picture of how important the core model is. Now, risk of boring you here, so I'm going to move on to how that fits within the content of, or the context of, priority guides. So once you've got your core model together and you're clear on the content that you need to take people from there to here to beyond, that's when the priority guide comes in so very handy. Now, if you could imagine that you're looking to build out the page, you very quickly, with your stakeholders and also looking at your analytics and talking to your customers, can't tell you enough how important it is that you have regular contact with your customers. The more you speak to them, the more you know about them. The more you speak to them, the more they like you. The more you get insights from them face to face. You might go out and do user research on a regular basis. You might do surveys. You might just ask polls on social media. The more you get to know them, the more that resonates, the more that percolates into your website, the more you understand what you need to be telling your customers on your website to get them to that point of conversion, that inflection point. So say we're still on the theme of the Cougar 2, which is Ford's brand new fictional vehicle. What do you want to say on the homepage, the landing page for the Cougar 2? Now, I'm imagining that this is a brand new way to travel. This is the first autonomous vehicle in the UK. Ford are cheerleading for it. It's a fantastic thing. It's what we've all been waiting for. Finally got to the point now where it's safe, where the lidars are working. So that's the radars. And finally getting everything to the point where it's joyous, it's safe, ready for showtime. And now finally we're trotting it out. It's got its tires on, it's shod with its boots, it's ready to go. And more importantly than that, you can have a sleep in the back. So it's going to take you from A to B. So the priority guide means, what are you going to hit people with at what point on the page? You need to start thinking now. Talk to your people, talk to your customers. What are the things about the Cougar 2 that they most want to know about before they are convinced that it's the right vehicle for them? Well, straight away, autonomous vehicles in the UK. My God, about time too. We've been waiting for this since the dawn of bread. How exciting. We can't wait to get stuck in. So what you need to do is put right at the top of the page in your priority guide, a new beginning. It's the way that you're going to live your life from now on, and we're here to give you a sneak peek of what that looks like. This is driving for the lazy. This is sleep on your way to work. This is do things differently, be inspired by everything that goes on around you. It's about understanding your environment better. Chances are, if it's autonomous, it's probably going to be fuel efficient. I'm guessing it. It's not going to be running on diesel, is it? Let's be fair. These are all the things that you might want to start thinking about. And this is what you can optimize. Get on Google Optimize and start testing it. But first and foremost, you need a foundation for this. So the priority guides will let you, I'll drag you down the page now so you can see what I'm talking about. So here we are. Here's an example. And we talked about this. We skirted over this yesterday in optimalworkshop.com teardown on Tell Better, Sell Better. You start to understand what your customer needs from that page, and you start off with pen and ink. You build it out into a high fidelity wireframe, then it goes into prototype, then it goes into build, and you can quickly see as you go through these phases that this designer has estimated through design thinking, going through a process. He's estimated what people want to see right at the top of the page in order to help them book their flight. And this obviously is the middle of a conversion process. So they've already decided which flight they want. They now want to see when they're flying, they want to see the total price, and they want to hit book. So doing some competitor research, you can quickly come up to see what the patterns are on the web. Talking to your customers, you can quickly understand how they want this content to be presented. And this is all about efficiency, especially if you're in the middle of a basket or a shopping cart process. You want to hasten the progress of the customer to completion, because A, it helps them, B, it reduces server costs. It's a beautiful marriage of right logic and humility, servility, getting your customer to where they want to be in the quickest amount of time possible. That's what priority guides are. And I think pretty much, and you're probably going to be quite relieved at this, because we've had quite a little bit of time on this tonight. In fact, you're 23 minutes and 40 in. I'm so thankful that you joined me. Thank you for taking the time to watch with me Tell Better, Sell Better. There's many more episodes from the past. I'm going to be a lot more on top of my game tomorrow. So you're going to have a much more esteemed, tuned in, understandable march through content, how you can make it work for you and your website. But for now, thank you for joining me. If you want to catch up with more of my misadventures, you can catch up with me on Twitter at Dave Thackeray, which is Thackeray, or you can get over to see me on LinkedIn or even on my website, davethackray.com. Thank you for hanging around. Thank you for learning more about content. And if you've got any questions about content, if you want to talk content, if you want me to look at your website and live on air is to break down some of the things that I would do to make your website better, then please do get in touch with me at Dave Thackeray on Twitter. Love to hear from you. For now, thank you ever so much for joining me on Tell Better, Sell Better. Until next time, be content. Bye for now.